Gilbert,
Present.
trustee Sheehan.
Present.
We have a quorum. For the record, Mr. Kuzak is absent due to a work commitment. And let's go on to matters from the public. We have first in order of Tom Dow.
I just have regarding the football announcement tower for the Homer Stallions. I was kind of curious. Back in October 7th, it was passed that Passion Construction was going to come in and give a second opinion on the evaluation you guys had from the structural engineer. And then last month's meeting, it came out that some of the trustees misunderstood what the motion was. So I'm kind of curious on why it wasn't brought back to the meeting to express what the misunderstanding was, for A, to ask those questions, and for trustee Kalis to kind of explain and further whatever miscommunication it was. It's kind of like where the status is with that, where we're at, we're going to go with that, as well as also where the Homer Stallions brought in a FOIA request to see the report of the structural engineer, and they were denied that FOIA request. I'm just curious on what grounds they were denied that FOIA request for their information, since it wasn't a board packet for public information for them to understand. I know they've been waiting for a while, so I'm sure any kind of information they would go through would be helpful. So I'm just kind of curious on where we stand with all of that.
Okay. Well, I would just say that Passion was is not capable of giving a second opinion on a structural engineer. They are not structural engineers, they're contractors. And we have the board, the township has used them in the past under job order contracting. You had a lot of questions, so I'm just trying to remember.
Sure.
So they have been contacted with the report from the structural engineer of the findings. The contracts have not been awarded, and so at this point, anything that is a party to the awarding of a contract is not released to the public until a final award is made.
So I guess my general question was, it came back, there was a misunderstanding on the motion that was carried that day. I was actually present for that meeting, and it seemed very clear that the motion was to find like a secondary option off of this structural engineer, whether it be, is this really a definite structural engineering project, or is it a general construction project? I think that bringing Passion out, who's done work for obviously the township in the past, wouldn't have hurt just to bring it out for a second opinion. That's how I took it. If I misunderstood that in the first meeting, maybe I was wrong, but that's how I took it simply. And I'm also part of the Parks and Rec committee, so I have a kind of clear understanding what like the objective was. So I'm just kind of curious on what the misunderstanding was, because the motion passed 3-1, and then we come back and now there's a misunderstanding of what the motion was. So I'm just kind of curious if there was a misunderstanding why it wasn't brought to the board when the motion was being passed, and then why all of a sudden the next meeting we have some miscommunication. It wasn't like we were a tight 3-2 vote. We were 3-1, pretty clear understanding, went through pretty smooth, and then now there's some So I'm just curious what was the misunderstanding from the motion being passed to next month? Now we don't understand.
Right. Well, I don't think that there was a misunderstanding of the motion being passed. I was not at the meeting.
Correct. Yes.
And I have here a copy of the motion, and it is trustee Kalis made a motion to have Homer Township office move forward getting a proposal from Passion Construction concerning the April 24th email that was sent out previously. That doesn't mention anything about a second opinion from a contractor on the structural engineering troubleshooting that was done. And I did speak with all of the trustees, because I had spoken with trustee Kalis, trying to coordinate that we would go ahead and contact the contractor. Now, there's a difference between a contractor and a structural engineer.
Absolutely.
And so he was of the opinion that he meant to discount the evaluation done by the structural engineer and just contact Passion. Nothing in the minutes or in the audio indicated that, and when I spoke to each of the board members that were present, they were not of the opinion that that was a part of their discussion as well. And they also indicated that they had approved the structural engineer to do the testing and the investigations, and they anticipated that when a scope of work was going to be developed, which it has not yet, the scope of work from a contractor or from the job order contracting, it would take into consideration any findings from the structural engineer. So that's the only misunderstanding that I understand that Trustee Kalis had about it, and I did do my best to try and determine what the board intended when they made those motions. And what was your, you're giving me a lot of questions.
Right,
So.
well, I can comment just on that part we just came with. So I guess if the motion passed to bring Passion out.
Okay.
So the motion
Yes.
passed to bring Passion out.
Yes, and I did contact Passion
Right.
after we clarified everything. And originally, we had also spoken with, at the April 24th email that Trustee Kalis was speaking about was an email that I sent to the board, to the Township Board, because the Township Board had originally instructed me to get a proposal from Passion to just replace the windows in the tower. And so I did set out to do that and met with Passion. And after we had done a site evaluation, they were indicating that there were more problems than just replacing the windows. Nobody's saying that the windows don't need to be replaced, so let's clarify that. But there were additional issues that were causing water infiltration into the walls of the building. And at that time, they were not comfortable simply replacing the windows. So my April 24th email to the Township Board was, because we were in between board meetings again, and we were trying to go as quickly as possible, was asking if it was okay with them if Passion then went beyond just replacing the windows, but also gave a fuller evaluation. Again, they aren't structural engineers, and we did do another site visit after that with Passion, and the board said yes, go ahead and see if we can find out what's causing all the water infiltration. And as they had started to go through stuff, they had recommended that we can contract or at least consider a structural engineer. And at that point, I had gone back to the board. I believe there was another meeting that we were able to do it that way. And the board directed me to find a structural engineer, and they approved the contract with the structural engineer, and we're still working our way through it. Since the last meeting, I have actually contacted Passion, and I'm trying to work out a meeting with them and possibly with the structural engineer so that a scope of work can be developed. It's my understanding, just some of the things with, talking with the structural engineer, there's different windows from the as-built drawings, there's specific windows that should be used to accommodate the draining system, a lot of things like that. So we were hoping that if we could pull the two parties together in developing a scope of work, and of course the winter came on us way quicker than we ever anticipated. We thought we would be able to get this, a lot sooner. So that is the process that I am working on right now. Unfortunately, it is December. It is the holiday season and trying to get people together and vacations and things like that, but that is the current status.
So, to follow, and with all due respect, when the motion passes at the meeting, you weren't present for that meeting, we come back to the next meeting. If there was some miscommunication, why wasn't it brought back to that board meeting?
It was brought back to the
There was a discussion between you and Trustee Kalis but I was curious, and those trustees who had questions that they could have asked it at that platform, it wasn't really brought.
Those trustees didn't indicate that they had any questions. The only person that indicated that they had any questions was Trustee Kalis. The other trustees indicated that they were not of the understanding that the structural engineering test results were going to be omitted from the next proposal.
Oh, I thought
or from a scope of work.
I thought the misunderstanding was what the reason why Passion was coming out. They didn't understand what that
No.
meant.
I think everybody was clear that Passion is a contractor, and so the structural engineer is not a contractor and doesn't do the work.
Right.
And so the next step would be to either go out to bid, out to a formal bid,
Correct.
or in this case with the JOC program, you know, if it can be, you can bypass, because it's sort of like joint purchasing of contracting. They've already gone out to bid for the project that we are a part of, a job order contracting program. So what they will do is, what will happen is a scope of work will be designed or designated, and then they will come back with cost estimates and, you know, the full scope of the work. So I don't think anybody was confused that the natural progression would be to either go out to bid or have, you know, work towards getting a scope of work and a contractor.
No, I understand, and I understand where you're coming from. I guess my confusion was, obviously, that the miscommunication was the clarity of the motion that was passed.
I don't do the motion.
Right, yeah, so, and I guess, like, when we came back next meeting, it wasn't clear on what the discrepancy was. I understand now the difference between, you know, structural engineer and a general contractor, and I guess I'm still at a disconnect of why we've already deemed it purely a structural engineering job when we, you know, like, where if a GC came out, like, they could come out and say, I have these limitations, I can't do X, Y, and Z, which brings me to that. And I know you said you've spoken to passion, but having them come out and doing their own scope and then coming back and telling you on paper, hey, I can't do this, I would understand where you're coming from. So I guess that's my disconnect.
Well, as I told you, that is what happened way back in the beginning stages, and then throughout history, the progression was, and the board, and if you will go back and look at the township board meetings and minutes and stuff, you will see that the progression was very much that. And that the board then did approve a structural engineer, and the rest, as they say, is history. And Mr. Mel, I don't mean to cut you short, but we do try to keep it just for public comment into 3 minutes.
No problem.
So I'm hoping that we were able to.
Yeah, my last question was just why the FOIA was denied. That was my last question.
Why what?
The FOIA was denied when they asked for the.
As I said earlier, it was because there has not been an award, so these are still, there's not been an award of contract, so this is still too early in the stages to release for FOIA, according to the Freedom of Information Act rules.
I appreciate the time, thank you.
Thank you. Dan?
That's a perfect segue for me. So timeline of the windows at the football tower. July of 2017 is when we first came to the board indicating dry rot. Windows were falling apart. The fall of 2018, a window actually blew out, was shattered, was left completely open for a couple weeks. When it was repaired, I got pictures. When it was repaired from the inside completely incorrectly. It sat like that for the entire winter. When they finally did do the plexiglass, which is still there, there's gaps that you can stick fingers through. So if we're truly concerned about water getting in, we might want to fix that. We submitted a quote for $12,000 to replace all the windows in the tower. You guys came back and decided to spend $80-something on a structural engineer. In that time, you guys have replaced at least 2 buildings, the windows in 2 buildings, and have not had the need for a structural engineer. Why at the last meeting, after Ed's motion for Passion to come in, is all of a sudden the structural engineer, his motion was just for Passion, it was voted on, it was approved. I'm confused on why the WSC, I think it is even involved. Why don't we just take that report, show it to Passion, show it to the other contractors, and figure it out? That's all I got.
Well, to address your timeline, it's actually been an issue for the township historically, even longer than that. We've actually had feedback from the Stallions. They thought the roofs were leaking, we replaced the roof. There's a history of the water infiltration and the peeling and the spalling of the interior walls. And various boards have tried to come up with solutions. I've given numerous reports to the board over time, brought the issue back even before you came back. The issue was remanded to committee at one time and tabled indefinitely for 2 years. There's a history there. I just happen to be a little bit more refreshed on it because we have received a couple FOIAs, and looking back over minutes in history, it's pretty amazing. I think we're putting Band-Aids on the problem. Regarding other windows being replaced, yes, just like the windows were replaced here, the windows were actually deteriorating, but they weren't leaking in between the walls, and there weren't additional problems as has been told to me, and I'm not a contractor or a professional, so I can only go with what the professionals tell us in those cases, and these were trying to avoid that issue. Yes, you did bring forth a $12,000 proposal, or whatever it was, close to that, or from a company to replace the windows. And the proposal was for just standard replacement and standard install. There was nothing addressing any of the water issues or any specialty water infiltration issues that I'm being told need to be addressed. I'm not sure if it was a prevailing wage company. I'm not sure if they were met the requirements of working for a government. It was your idea to go and get the proposal, and it's possible that, you know, if the board chooses to go out to bid, you know, that company could come back in and bid. But there needs to be a scope of work, and I believe the board has explored this for several months now. Well, and I understand you and me too, wanting to get these problems addressed and solved. But apparently our exploration has indicated that it isn't simply a matter of replacing the windows, although I think we all acknowledge the fact that a part of this will be to replace the windows. But again, when you talk about why there was a structural engineer, and I appreciate it if we don't have yelling out from the audience, okay? I just would like to finish what I'm saying, okay? This is not all of a sudden a structural engineer at the October 7th meeting. This board has received proposals, has approved a structural engineer. This isn't something new that just happened in October 7th. So I'm not sure that the facts that are, or that the statements that are being presented here are factual. That's all I can tell you. I've explained already to Mr. Bell on the same subject what our progress is now, and other than the fact that it is not still, the problems are not still resolved, the encouraging part is that we will have some time now to be able to develop a scope of work and bring a proposal back to the board, and the board can decide how they wish to proceed. Jennifer?
Okay, my only question tonight is in regards to the meeting minutes for the executive session that was called on May 13th, 2019. You have it in tonight's agenda.
Okay.
Can you discuss any of that with us? And are you going to motion up to restrict or release?
Well, I couldn't speak on behalf of the board, but when we get to that item on the agenda, then I believe you'll get your answer to your question. Now, Mr. Balich?
Yeah, I had two things. The first one was real quick, that the Catholic Church and 33C are in the process of making a deal to sell the Footing School to the Catholic Church, and I'm sure you're aware of it.
I am not.
Oh, okay, well, if you go to church on Sunday, the Motherhood Council and St. Bernard's had it in their bulletins that this is the plan. They're going to have a preschool there, and they're also going to make what you guys are talking about building, a community room, but not for weddings and funerals and that stuff, but for civic organizations to meet. So that's going to happen. And so it's another reason why I question the spending of township money on an unneeded multi-purpose center. And when you guys talked about it in open space, because I watched the videos, yeah, I voted for a multi-purpose center for the senior housing. That was in 2001, and it was mainly so the seniors had a place to go. This is 2019 now. So when you look around now, there's lots of places. 2001, there wasn't too many places. And now you're going to get another real nice place. So when we had the special town meeting, it was said that this was just discussion, nothing's gonna be done. Then 2 months ago, trustee Fian said they're trying to raise money to go out and build this thing. So I'm just pointing out that you're doing stuff with township money, taxpayer money, that's unnecessary, in my opinion. You guys might think so, but there's more than enough places to have events, and now you're gonna have another one for civic events. And if you were planning on not being in competition with Denolfo's and with Kono Farm and with the rest of them, then it wouldn't matter, because they're not gonna have that type of facility either. So, you know, I'm still dead against that, and I'm sure a lot of other people are, and, you know, we haven't heard the end of it, I'm sure. But the other thing is, Mr. Hagan pointed out in the spring with the towers, that he goes there and all the windows were open about an inch and a half, plus the broken windows. So where did your water damage come from? All the rains we had, going through the cracks in the windows, the inch and a half cracks, and the broken window. So, you know, maybe you need a structural engineer. I don't think so, not for that amount of money. Maybe Ed Callis has the right idea. I watched that video too. What he was saying was correct. I mean, it's just going on for 3 years. I mean, it's kind of frustrating to hear that you need to spend all that money for a structural engineer and then have the windows open during the heaviest rains I've seen in a long time, and then say there's water damage. Well, of course there is.
Okay, so if the windows are left open, they're open from the sports groups that are using it. We go in and close everything and redo the building, close it up for the winter at the end of their use. Again, we don't leave the windows open, we don't use the
I have
building for
timestamped
anything.
photos from
You know
before
what?
I had access to the tower
You know what?
of the windows open.
Why would we go into the announcer's tower and open up the windows?
Why would I help?
But
out
let
with
me
pictures?
just go a little further. But the matter is leaving the windows open hasn't been quoted by any of the contractors or anybody as a problem.
Well,
But
he
there
said that
are.
Dan said
I
it
can't
months
speak for
ago,
what Dan
and I was like,
says.
I can't believe that happened.
Well, you just have to believe whatever you want to believe, and you can have whatever opinions you want. Just like you just said that we're spending thousands of dollars in taxpayers' ink for an event center when that is not true. And I would challenge you to show me thousands of dollars that are
You're
being
talking
spent,
about
which you
it.
continue to say
You
is
haven't
being
spent
done.
it yet, but you're talking.
Well, then stop saying we are.
You're talking about it.
No, a committee can discuss all kinds of options. And, you know, for somebody to come and say that a committee can't explore, can't research, sounds very closed-minded to me. And I don't know about the churches or whether something will ever happen. I don't know exactly how you voted, except for I believe it wasn't about the Community Activity Center. It was about the community center, which later you made sure the healing garden was put on that property. So again, should we talk about ancient history or whatever? No, we shouldn't. Should have expenditures been spent? We've posted statements, we've discussed this numerous meetings. You can continue to trying to get the people all upset thinking that somebody's doing something wrong, and you can project your opinions and you're entitled to do that, and I defend that. But you aren't entitled to your own truths. And as far as I'm concerned, public comment is over. Everybody's had their opportunity, and thank you very much. So let's move on. The accounting is the next item on the agenda, and you have been presented the November 2019 accounts payables and receivables. Do I hear a motion to approve those?
I'll make that motion. I'll second it.
So we have a motion by Fian and a second by Alford. Is there any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, will the clerk call the roll, please?
Trustee Fian,
Yes.
Trustee Ober,
Yes.
Supervisor Myers,
Yes.
Trustee Kalis,
Yes.
Motion carries. We have no line item transfers. We have no request for funding contributions. At this time, Highway Commissioner DeVivo, if you would like to give us your report. Thank you.
We're gonna be doing some remodeling at the road district, mostly in the garage. We're also looking to add another storage building. You know, every Every day I see more and more of our equipment parked outside in the cold and the rain, and, you know, we've gotta get it inside. So we're gonna put about 6,000 square foot. Ideally, it would've been nice to put cold storage, but because we have to put a sprinkler system in it, we have to bring not only electricity but water. There's a sprinkler system, we have to bring heat. So if we're gonna do all this, we might as well just bring the sewer too, it's the only thing, and if someday it needs to be used for something else. We have no plans for any plumbing facilities in there, but as long as they're working the site, we'll bring the sewer to and dead end it up. Because it will have gas, electric, and water, so now's the time to do it. We'll be going off for bid with that. We're looking to do something economical like a pole building. So we're looking at Cleary and Wick, people like that. So we'll be publishing that. Hopefully we get that bid published this week. The remodeling in the road district garage, we're going to gut what is now the lunchroom, which is just a basement with tables. We're gonna cut that all out, and we're gonna remodel it to where it's a training room. You know, we're constantly growing, so we're gonna have a locker room and some showers in there. Most of that work will be done in-house over the winter. And we'll be adding some offices downstairs in one of the garage. Where we're putting the offices, there's already a ceiling and there's already a wall, so we're just adding a couple of walls and a couple of doors to create office space for the management staff, the operational management staff. With all this going on, we're kind of cleaning out the garage. We're coming across a lot of outdated equipment that we haven't used in several years. So I'm pretty sure next meeting I'll be coming here to declare a lot of this stuff, you know, excessive, and we'll be offering it to the township. If they want any of it, I doubt it, but I would give you first shot. And then, of course, we'll go to the other highway commissioners and see if they want any of it. So we'll be declaring it.
Or do you have to?
We have, I think,
Meeting?
in order to do it right, it has to be declared surplus. I can't just be, you know.
Right, no, I just didn't know if it was at an annual meeting of the electors.
No, I can declare it at a board meeting that it's surplus. And once it's declared surplus, then we'll be able to offer it to the people who may need it. I'm knowing a lot of this stuff is just gonna be scrap metal. I mean, that's how old and outdated a lot of this stuff is. I'll give you an example. All the plows came with wheels. The wheels are fine when you plow over gravel, but they're nothing more than excessive weight and rust. So I got skids of these things, these old steel wheels that you just would use for nothing. You know, that's just some of it. We have old oil tanks that we never use anymore that do nothing but take up space. The space is obviously much more important to us than storage. It costs to store this stuff, you know. And I have an operations manager who, for lack of a better word, is an old farmer. He tends to want to hold on to everything. So I think it's just time to clean house, and I gotta get this equipment inside, that's what it's all about. So, as this progresses, I'll be reporting to the board on how we're doing. Any questions regarding any of that?
Thank you.
That's it.
Thank you. Assessor Karen Chakowski?
Well, 2019 is closing up, so we're finishing everything, all the hearings are over with, and the only thing that I do wanna say is garbage that's going on Facebook about my office that I don't mention. I do not have taxpayers come to me about questions about assessments or taxes. And I just want to clear that up, because what you see on Facebook is not always the truth. And basically, call my office. I don't answer anything. So I just want to make that clear.
Yeah, and I want to back you up a little bit because we share the same entryway, and there are many occasions where people are coming and asking for the assessor's office and going in and speaking with your
And
office.
since we have Grant here, and I'm glad he's taken and got finally somebody from the newspaper here, I just want to make that totally clear, because the stuff that's going on Facebook is garbage. And if you believe that, call us. Pick up that phone and have the public call us. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's go on to the clerk, Kathy Kuzik's report.
The FOIA tracker is enclosed. I'm also looking for approval for the November 18th regular board meeting minutes. You need a motion for that?
Do we have a motion to approve the regular board meeting minutes of November 18th?
I'll make that motion.
We have a motion by Alford, do we have a second? I will second. Second by Myers, any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, will all those in favor of approving the November 18th regular board meeting minutes signify by saying aye?
Aye.
Oppose? Abstain?
Aye. I wasn't here at the last meeting, so.
Okay, trustee Keenan abstains, from the motion does carry. The semi-annual review of the closed executive session minutes, to be considered, they were approved originally on June 10th, and now the question is whether or not they will be released or they will continue to be closed.
So I need a motion for the May 13th, 2019 minutes to restrict or release.
Did you say May 13th?
May 13th.
I'll make the motion to release.
We have a motion, do we have a second? A motion to release the minutes. Motion dies for lack of second. Do we have a motion to restrict or to?
I'll make a motion that we approve the minutes but not release them.
Okay, we have a motion to not release, do I hear a second?
I'll second that.
So we have a motion by Keenan, a second by Alford. If there's any discussion, unless it's irrelevant to the details of the minutes, it can be discussed here, but if it is relevant, it would need to be discussed in executive session. So if there is any discussion, please indicate so. Hearing none, all those in favor of not releasing the, May 13th approved minutes signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Oppose.
Opposed is trustee Kalis. Any abstention? Motion carries. We'll go on to the supervisor's report. So we will, last month you will recall that we established that we do have sufficient funds available to abate the senior housing bond this year. And I am required to read certain statements, and there are certain things that our bond counsel would like us to do annually when we do abate the taxes. So I'm gonna read this. Township supervisor announces that the township has funds lawfully available to pay the principal of or interest of the township's $2,365,000 general obligation refunding bonds, alternate revenue source, series 2012A, dated June 14th, 2012, the bonds and the amended bond order dated January 13th, 2015, in a sum equal to the annual levy of certain ad valorem property taxes pledged to the payment of the bonds due in 2019, and that the township shall direct the deposit of such funds into the bond fund as defined in the ordinance of the township authorizing the bond for paying principal of and interest on the bonds. You have been presented the ordinance, and I would ask the township clerk to read the ordinance in full.
This is ordinance number HT 2019-1209-ORD1. The ordinance abating a portion of taxes heretofore levied to pay principal of interest on certain general obligation refunding bonds, series 2012A of Homer Township, Will County, Illinois. Whereas the Township Board, quote, the Township Board, end quote, of Homer Township, Will County, Illinois, by an ordinance adopted on the last day of April 2012, quote, including the bond order dated May 18th, 2012, and amended January 13th, 2015, collectively, the ordinance, end quote, did provide for the issue of the bonds of the township and the levy of a direct annual tax sufficient to pay principal and interest on the bonds, and whereas on the 31st day of May 2012, duly certified copies of the ordinance were filed in the office of the county clerk of the county of Will, Illinois, quote, the county clerk, end quote, and whereas the township has covenanted not to abate the 2019 pledged taxes from the pledged revenues unless or to the extent the township board shall have determined by resolution duly adopted by the affirmative vote of the township board and supported by a statement from a certified public accountant, quote, or firm or of certified public accountants, end quote, or from the township supervisors that the pledged revenues with respect to bonds in connection with such levy of taxes has determined that the pledged revenues projected to be received during the period in connection with such levy of taxes in respect of such bonds are on deposit in the bond fund and are sufficient to pay when due the principal of and interest on the bonds during such period, and to maintain the 1.25 coverage requirements in connection with alternate bonds. And whereas if the conditions of the previous preamble are met, the township board or the officers of the township acting with proper authority shall direct the deposit of such funds into the bond fund and in by such proceeding or action shall direct the abatement of the pledged taxes by such amount, and proper notification of such abatement shall be filed with the county clerk in a timely manner to effect such abatement. Now, therefore, be it ordained by the Township Board of Homer Township, Will County, Illinois, as follows. Section 1, the statement of the township supervisor of the township as required by the ordinance prior to any abatement is hereby accepted by the township board and made part hereof. Section 2, the pledged taxes heretofore levied in the ordinance for 2019 for the bond shall be abated as follows. Year 2019, the amount levied, $185,100.00, amount to be abated, $185,100.00, and remainder of tax to be extended, 0. Section 3, forthwith upon the adoption of this ordinance, the township clerk of the township board shall file a certified copy hereof with the county clerk, and it shall be the duty of the county clerk for the year 2019 to abate the taxes heretofore levied in and for the year 2019 for the bonds as shown here and above in section 2. Section 4. This ordinance shall be in full force and effect forthwith upon its adoption, adopted December 9th, 2019.
Thank you. At this time, I would ask that a motion to adopt the ordinance be made.
I'll make that motion.
So we have a motion, do I hear a second? The ordinance abating.
I'll second it.
So we have a motion by Feeney and a second by Alford. Is there any discussion on the motion? The only thing I would like to just remind you all is that because of the timing of the way that our levy deadlines are due, again, just a reminder that we are required to show the bond amount in our levy request. However, this will cancel that out once the actual abatement is filed. So it looks like the levy is higher than it is because it's premature to the abatement. But again, I think it's a good sign that the senior housing is being managed great. Everybody's up to date with all of their rents and all their different things, and because of this, we are able to abate taxes once again. So with that being said, I would ask the clerk to call the roll for the motion adopting the ordinance H2 2019-1209-ORD1.
Trustee Kalis?
Yes.
Supervisor Myers?
Yes.
Trustee Ofer?
Yes.
Trustee Fian?
Yes.
Motion carries unanimously. Just a reminder that it's this time of year again where we'll soon start to be working on our next fund budgets, and as usual, invite the officials and the committee chairs to submit any information regarding future projects, items that will require funding, changes to line items, etc., as soon as possible. Under status reports, just an update on the CDBG program with Homer Township, the Lockport Heights Sanitary District, and Will County. There is a change order, number 1, which is a revision of the award to Conley Excavating, substituting alternate A bid item Copper K Water Service with alternate B bid item HDPE Water Services. This is resulting in a reduction of $100,950 from the original bid award. The original total award of the bid was $1,371,485. It It is now decreased to $1,270,535. The board has been presented with the monthly progress report, which indicates that materials and equipment were mobilized, Conley had begun water main and fire hydrant installations, and the income eligibility verification process with the residents is progressing. The township supervisor, the sanitary district, and Will County officials conducted a tour of the job site on November 20th of 2019. We'll go on to status report for facilities, property management. Regarding all the properties, there has been an upsurge of vandalism in the parks in some of our properties. We do continue to work with law enforcement and ask the public and any of the officials, anybody, to report any suspicious activity at the properties as soon as possible, so that we can dispatch the law enforcement. Senior housing, as I mentioned before, all the rents and leases are current, all the units are occupied. The annual window replacement program, the phase program, has been completed for the year. We did have an incident where a mature tree that was installed by the township in 2010 was knocked down, and as a result of an auto accident, it is alleged the driver was uninsured. However, we are pursuing the matter with the township attorney. As the supervisor of the general assistance program, I just want to memorialize that I will renew the annual memorandum of understanding agreement with the Will County Center for Community Concerns, and the board has also been provided with a copy of that. That's the end of my report, unless anybody has any questions from the board. Let's go on to the township committee reports. As I understand it, events chairman John Krizek had no report. This will take us on to Chairman Tom Thien with the Open Space Planning and Operations Committee.
All right, well, I guess the first thing is, we started last year to have a controlled burn and burn most of the weeds and stuff out at Trentina. There was a misunderstanding. They started to do another burn. It's been wet. They haven't been able to burn the weeds. And the lot, to the best of my knowledge, they started, but they never finished.
I don't know. I
And
don't know where
I apologize, I drive past there every day, and I haven't stopped in there to really look, but to the best of my knowledge, they have not finished the burn. They'll do it this year if they can. If not, it'll have to be done next year. It's part of a multi-year planning where we get rid of noxious weeds, invasive plants, that sort of stuff, to make the site prettier. Earlier we had talked about the dog park. We have purchased 2 sun shelters, so that one on each side, one for the big dogs, one for the little dogs, so that people will have a place inside the dog park itself where they can sit, watch their animals, and be out of the sun. And the only other thing I sort of have is we have been talking in open space as we were given the report to do, and we are looking into grants and fundraising still. We haven't done anything, but we are looking into things.
Thank you. Let's go on to Park and Recreation Chairman Ed Kalis.
This last meeting was canceled. We're still in the process of divvying out responsibilities. But I do want to make, as my drive through the parks this Sunday, I did notice at the Sportsplex, at the new fence, the new netting, there are now 2 support brackets that are now broken off. And I'm just afraid that it's gonna happen again with the winds that we have, and moving forward, we're gonna run that same situation again. I don't know if a repair ticket needs to be made, or does the admin office wanna make a phone call to the, I forgot the name of the company that did the netting.
Yeah, I don't know. We haven't received, I know, HAC President, Andrew Ruggiero has been out at the site, and they were looking at,
I spoke to Andrew over the
some
weekend.
proposals, but, I hadn't been.
You know,
hadn't been
the 2
reported.
support brackets that are welded to the big posts, and like I said, they're broken. I'm just really afraid that we're gonna have the
Right.
same situation again.
Well, yeah.
Whether
and-
it be an insurance issue or not, I would much
Yeah.
rather do preventive
Yeah, I
maintenance
don't
if we
know.
can.
Yeah, I don't know. We will look into trying to do some, preventive
Okay.
maintenance. I don't know, how much can be done. It was,
Wasn't that all replaced just this year or the year before?
I
Right.
don't, the poles were down, but I don't think the the support brackets that come from the fencing, that go into the big pole.
Okay.
I don't think those were replaced per se. I'm really
Yeah,
not quite
Well,
sure.
we'd have to go back and look at
Yeah.
AJC proposals, they brought the
Yep.
proposals to us and they're experts, we did not consult with a structural engineer, even though these are high winds, and, sometimes the structural engineer, according to Passion, needs to be consulted when it comes time to knowing how far to drill down into the poles and some of the things with the wind loads. So, I know that there was some discussion after the last time, and we have been able to do some insurance claims. I don't know about this, but we will try to check.
I appreciate it, thank you, and that concludes my report.
Okay. We will go on to, I'm sorry, George, I lost my place. Senior Citizen and Special Needs Advocacy, Chairman George Alford.
Supervisor Myers and I had a meeting with the case representative on detailing the prerequisites and all that was involved in the program to bring increased transportation to the community. We did tried to hold a meeting in December to see if we could bring this to the board, but we lacked a quorum. Hopefully we can do that in January and bring it to the board then. At this time, that's all I've got.
Okay, Judge, thank you. Kieran, for our liaison with the Military and Veteran
Just to
Affairs.
build some things up, we had Heroes Helping Heroes on December 3rd at Myers again. We had about 40-some adults and 100-some children went shopping with the Will County Sheriff's Department and the fire district out here. And just to see those kids having a great time, and I gotta say, our Will County Sheriff's Department and our fire district was wonderful with those kids. They didn't wanna leave.
Yeah,
And we had a Santa Claus, and they had drinks in the back and stuff, so everything turned out really nice.
wonderful. Can I
And-
just, for clarification, for those people that don't, that may be seeing this, they don't know what Heroes Helping Heroes is and who the kids and people are they military families?
They're all military family. That's all what we handle is military family that's in need. And if we can give a smile on their faces, that's who and I basically call every family member to invite them to Heroes Helping Heroes. Takes a little while, but it all works out well. And just to see kids smile, and sometimes they don't get to smile. So, and I just want to remind everything, Wreath Across America is this Saturday at 11 o'clock out by Abraham and Elwood. If you are going to go out there, please go early because it's always bumper to bumper. We had volunteers that couldn't even get in last year, and they were volunteered to help out there. Operation Care, if anybody in here would ever like to go to help out Operation Care, to do packages, they're located in Manhattan. I've been out there, our auxiliary has donated money, but also helping them pack. And it is something to see what they pack up in these little boxes for our servicemen and women overseas. It's unbelievable. And, we're still going at it tomorrow. It'll be the American Legion, the VFW, are shopping with single men or women at Walmart tomorrow. So,
Very good. Thank you.
and I'm sorry, I hope
Okay. And, thank you, Karen.
you're very welcome.
Then go on to new business. The board has been presented with the 2019 mosquito management program. It is the annual service report. Kind of gives you a little synopsis of, our conditions over the summer, our expenditures, things like that, although you are being reported to on a monthly basis throughout the season. Under old business, this was tabled. This was an item that is before the Will County Planning and Zoning, is my understanding from the residents of the area involved with this, that this item was previously on our agenda. It has been tabled until January 7th, 2020. Basically, this is a zoning case involving, it is ZC 19-059, involving Formato Properties. LLC. They are requesting a map amendment from R1 to I1. The property is located approximately 14409 South Archer Avenue. There was a public hearing, there's been 2 continuances. Since this initial time, and the board has been provided with it, we have received input from our residents in the area with numerous issues and complaints of non-compliance with the existing property that is already in I1. And you've been provided also with a copy of the staff report from the Will County Land Use Development Review Division. And do we have any, there were supposed to be neighbors here tonight. Anybody here? Nobody signed up. The request was in an email that the township board would consider, even though we are only advisory to Will County, that the township board would consider authorizing or directing the supervisor to prepare a report requesting that the county hold off on granting the rezoning until the current property is brought into compliance.
Yeah.
Mr. Adcock, I assume this is your area.
Yes, it is.
Okay, does the board have any objections, Mr. Adcock speaking, even though he didn't sign up and he's
I'm late, I'm just sitting here,
Okay.
me and my little bottle
with no objection, go ahead.
of, some of the stuff that this trucking company has been doing, one of the major violations that we're more concerned with, besides all of their minor stuff, is, their fuel tanks that they store. While they are legal, and they were in compliance when they came out with the state fire marshal over the summer. And then it was brought to my attention because you can see that they have larger fuel tanks over there now. So they got inspected, passed their inspection with small fuel tanks. Then they go in and they bring in bigger fuel tanks. And I contacted our local fire marshal who went over there and checked and found out now that they're in violation again. So now they bring in bigger fuel tanks and bring in, I believe he said it was kerosene that they're storing on site without proper permitting. So this company has a history of constantly,
Well,
let's
the
push the
resident-
envelope and see what we can get away with until we get caught.
The
And now they
resident,
want to expand into even more area next to residents' homes.
The
And it's
resident-
just, so we're looking for some kind of help. I know it's out of you guys' jurisdiction, but any kind of letters we can get from anybody to say, hey, you know what? Let's make them clean up their area first before we go giving them more zoning for another area to, who knows what they're gonna
Right.
put there.
well, it's my understanding, and again, if I'm wrong, Jerry, please correct me, but, you know, we kind of have an advisory role with
Right.
the Will County Land Use, it's just recommendations.
Correct.
Hopefully, you know, if it's a matter involving our residents and, you know, they bring it to our attention, the resident that provided us, with these details, and, I am surprised she was not here, although, she did indicate she might have had a conflict. She provided numerous reports of violations filed with Will County over several years, from shooting guns to, there's numerous items, in here. Items of, Will County Sheriff, Police Dispatch, quite a history of, at the very least, being a bad neighbor. And we were not aware of this, when the issue first, I believe in November, and, the residents did, reach out to us and ask for some support. I guess they have been attending the planning, and zoning,
Right, they have.
meetings and.
What's the saddest part is the other trucking company that was in there from years ago, there was 183 page of violations from that previous company. And then the county spent all this money to come in and clean it all up. They did 1 foot square drilling and made them clean up the entire, cause they were burying anything they could bury. Got it all cleaned up and it sat, and now this company comes in, and now in the 2.5 years they've been there, they've already accumulated 83 pages of violations already in just a couple of years. So
Well, and-
it's just gotten out of hand.
And I did also recommend that they reach out to Steve Gallich and Mike Friswell, who are their Will County representatives. They felt that they weren't represented, and, because Homer Township was only advisory, and I did explain to them that they are represented, that they do have 2 elected officials. They said they had not received any responses from you, but I'm sure you'll be working
I
on
didn't get
that.
the email.
Oh, okay, I don't know anything about it, I'm just bringing it to
I'm
your
on the land
attention.
use committee at the county,
Okay,
and I can just assure you that, the county, if they have 18 violations, they'll be in court, because they don't mess around there.
good,
So, and if they're going to get new zoning, and there's problems already, they're not gonna get it unless they fix what's broke, period.
yeah, let's hope, the staff is recommending that it be allowed, so.
Well, if it goes through the PVC, that one, it passes there, sometimes the law says it doesn't go to us, but I guarantee you that when it comes to our committee, if there's anything wrong, it gets fixed. Because we don't vote to pass it if there's any kind of problem, period.
That will be very comforting to
Right.
the residents then.
So,
Okay, so is there any direction from the board
I'll get you later.
with this action,
I'll
or
talk
how
to
would
you.
you like to proceed?
I don't see anything wrong with a letter saying that, we go with the policy of until they fix it.
Okay,
that-
can I ask you to make this as a motion, because
Yes.
then I can, when we
I'd like to-
elaborate in the
I'd like to
letter.
make a motion
Mhm.
that, to give you the power to write a letter, on behalf of the township residents to, not hold the hearings and,
To delay action?
delay action, yes, until they are in full compliance with the current law.
may I make a suggestion that you say you object to it until everything is in proper order? Because that's what we'll be looking for at the land use committee. Then you need, at the county board vote, you'll need I don't know what you call it, but more than majority vote, say a super majority
Well,
vote.
let's include that then.
If you object, if you don't say you object, you don't need the, super majority.
Okay, so, do I have this right, trustee Oker, so you are asking, you are directing the supervisor to relay a letter, making a motion to delay the rezoning actions and object to the rezoning until the current property is brought into compliance.
With the current laws, yes, that's
Current
correct.
laws. Okay, so there is a motion, do I hear a second?
I'll second it.
Motion by Alford, second by Fan. Is there any further discussion on the motion?
Will they send out, I was involved when we originally did this, will they send out like the green cards or something to get the neighbors to be
They
able
all got
to?
their certified letters, they all got
Because
it.
to the best of my knowledge, when they started this 2.5 years ago, and I'm not defending them once, they never did do anything they said they were going to do, is they did send out cards and nobody complained, everybody
So
seemed
that
to
was
be in
the
favor of it.
original, when they did the original, zoning for the first property. And people did attend and they still got their, but then it was only gonna be Monday through Friday, 5:30 to 5 PM.
I'd have to look back at the old minutes.
Right.
I know they've never done anything they said they were gonna do. There were gonna be plantings and screenings, they were cleaning up and all sorts of stuff, and it's just never happened.
Correct.
Okay.
Never has,
Okay,
sorry.
no, that's okay, I just, I know that we try to be informal and try to answer questions, but, sometimes when we deviate from the decorum of the meeting, it gets out of hand. So, at any rate, I believe your answer, yes, green cards to the adjacent property owners when there's a rezoning request. And again, we have a motion, we have a second, I believe that concludes discussion. Will the clerk call the roll, please?
Trustee Fian,
Yes.
trustee Oker,
Yes.
trustee Kalis.
yes.
Supervisor Myers.
Yes. Motion carries unanimously. Okay, do we have a purpose to go into executive session this evening?
Not that I know
Hearing
of.
none, I would entertain a motion for adjournment.
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Ofer, do we have a second?
I'll second it.
We have a motion by Ofer, a second by Fian, and it is now 8:02, and we are adjourned.